Something is happening right now in the silver market that most people are completely ignoring. Hundreds of everyday investors are quietly walking into coin shops and selling everything. But here's what nobody is telling you. Who are these people? Why are they selling? And what does this signal about where silver is truly headed? Because the numbers don't lie. And what these numbers reveal could change every financial decision you make this year. Stay with us to Currency Insight. Now, before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor. You know how your grandfather used to say, "Son, don't miss the train." Well, don't miss this one either. Hit that subscribe button because this channel is a train worth riding. And tell us in the comments below, where in the world are you watching from tonight? We want to know, because this story affects every corner of the globe. Now, let's get into it. There is a strange thing happening in America right now. It is not happening on Wall Street. It is not happening in the boardrooms of major banks. It is not being discussed on the front pages of financial newspapers. It is happening in small coin shops, quietly, one transaction at a time. People are walking in through the front door, placing their silver on the counter, and walking back out with cash in their hands. Not one person, not 10 people, hundreds of them. And this is not just happening in one city or one state. This is happening across the country, from the East Coast to the Midwest, from small towns to larger communities. The silver is moving, and it is moving in one direction only, out. He is based on the East Coast of the United States. He runs a busy shop. He sees buyers, he sees sellers. He has been doing this for years. He knows the patterns. He knows the rhythms of this market better than most analysts sitting behind expensive desks in expensive offices. And something this past week caught his attention. In just 7 days, his shop recorded 252 separate transactions from people selling silver. 252. That is not a slow week. That is not a normal week. That is a number that makes an experienced coin dealer stop, put down his coffee, and start asking questions. So he did something smart. He designed a short survey. 4 simple questions. No names required, no ID, no address, no phone number, completely anonymous. He just wanted honest answers from real people about why they were selling and who they actually were. Out of 252 sellers that week, 213 people agreed to answer. That is a strong participation rate for any informal survey. And what those 213 people revealed is something every silver investor, every young entrepreneur, and every serious financial decision maker needs to hear. The first question was simple. How long have you been stacking silver? Simple question, straightforward. But the answer that came back was anything but ordinary. 84% of the people selling silver that week had been stacking for 2 years or less. Let that number sit for a moment. Out of every 10 people walking into that shop to sell their silver, approximately 8 of them had only been holding it for 2 years or less. They came in relatively recently. They bought during a period of excitement, and now they were leaving. The breakdown continued. 14% of sellers had been stacking between 3 and 5 years. These are people with a little more experience, a little more patience. But even they reached a breaking point this week. And then there is the final number. Only 2% of sellers had been holding silver for more than 5 years. 2%. The long-term holders, the people who truly understand what silver is and what it represents, they are not selling. They are sitting still. They are watching. They are waiting. And they are letting everyone else panic around them. This pattern is not new in the world of investing. Every single time a market goes through a difficult period, it is always the newest participants who exit first. It was true during the dot-com crash. It was true during the 2008 financial crisis. It was true during the crypto collapse of recent years. The people who got in last leave first. They come in during the excitement. They buy when the energy is high and the headlines are loud. And when the market slows down, when it stops performing like a rocket and starts behaving like a long road, they grow impatient. They start watching YouTube videos that tell them silver is finished. They read comments that say the market will never recover. And slowly, doubt replaces conviction. So they sell. And in doing so, they hand their silver over to the very people who have been patiently waiting for exactly this moment. But here is the question that nobody is asking yet. Where did these sellers learn about silver in the first place? Because the answer to that question reveals something far more dangerous than a simple sell-off. It reveals a problem at the very root of how people are being educated about money, and that problem is growing. A single video can reach 10 million people overnight. A single headline can move markets before breakfast. A single thumbnail, with the right face on it, can convince thousands of ordinary people to make financial decisions they were never truly prepared to make. And this is exactly where the silver sell-off story gets complicated. When that East Coast coin shop owner finished collecting his survey results, he moved to the second question. It was a simple question. 4 words. How did you learn about silver and gold? 4 words. But the answer that came back painted a picture that every serious investor and every young entrepreneur needs to study carefully. 67% of the people selling their silver that week said they learned about precious metals through social media, YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, online platforms where anyone with a camera and an internet connection can present themselves as a financial expert, reach hundreds of thousands of followers, and face zero accountability for the advice they give. 67%. That means more than 2 out of every 3 sellers in that shop that week had built their entire understanding of silver and gold on a foundation of online content. Content that may have been entertaining, content that may have felt educational, but content that, in many cases, was designed not to inform them, but to excite them. There is a specific and dangerous pattern that has emerged on these platforms. Certain content creators, and it is important to understand that not all of them operate with bad intentions, have built large audiences by delivering one consistent message. Silver is going to the moon. Gold is about to explode. Buy now. Buy everything. The system is collapsing. The dollar is finished. Stack as much as you can before it is too late. This message works. It drives clicks, it drives subscriptions, it drives engagement. And for the creator, it drives revenue. But for the viewer sitting at home, it creates something very specific. It creates artificial urgency. And artificial urgency is one of the most financially destructive forces a young investor can experience. But the problem goes even deeper than enthusiastic creators overpromising on silver prices. There is a darker practice operating within this space. Some channels have taken to using the names, the faces, and the reputations of genuinely respected financial voices to attract viewers under false pretenses. Names like Andy Schechtman, names like Lynette Zhang, names like Robert Kiyosaki. These are individuals who have spent years building credibility in the world of precious metals and financial education. Their words carry weight, their opinions move people, and certain content creators know this. So they take thumbnails featuring these respected faces, place sensational headlines beside them, and publish videos suggesting these experts said things they never actually said. They splice together clips from different videos. They take sentences out of context. They rearrange meaning until the original message becomes something entirely different. A viewer sees a familiar face, a trusted name, a dramatic headline, and they believe it. They buy silver based on a video that was never real, based on a message that was never delivered, based on advice that was never given. And when the market does not behave the way that fake video promised, they panic. They lose confidence. They walk into a coin shop and they sell everything. This is not a silver problem. This is an information problem. Now consider the other side of this survey result. If 67% of sellers learned about silver through social media, what about the remaining 33%? Local news and cable television accounted for a portion of that group. People who heard silver and gold mentioned during a financial segment. People who caught a brief report about rising commodity prices and decided to investigate further. And then there is the smallest number of all. Only 16% of people surveyed said they learned about silver and gold through family and friends. 16%. In previous generations, financial knowledge was passed down at kitchen tables. Grandparents taught parents, parents taught children. The wisdom of holding real assets, of protecting wealth through physical metals, was a conversation that happened inside homes, not on screens. That tradition has nearly disappeared. Today, the algorithm has replaced the grandfather. The thumbnail has replaced the family conversation. And millions of people are making serious financial decisions based on content that was designed to entertain them, not protect them. And this raises a question that goes far beyond silver. If the majority of new investors are learning about money from platforms built on engagement and emotion rather than education and evidence, What other financial decisions are being shaped by the same broken system? What other markets are filling up with participants who were never truly prepared for the moment the excitement ends and the real test begins? There is a fundamental misunderstanding that exists in the minds of most new investors. It is not a misunderstanding about silver specifically. It is not a misunderstanding about gold or copper or any particular asset class. It is a misunderstanding about time. And until that misunderstanding is corrected, no amount of market education, no amount of survey data, and no amount of expert commentary will prevent the same pattern from repeating itself again and again. Silver is not a sprint. It never was. The people who have built genuine wealth through precious metals did not do it in 2 years. They did not buy silver on a Monday and check the price every Friday, hoping to see a dramatic return. They did not measure success in months. They measured it in decades. But somewhere along the way, that fundamental truth got lost. It got replaced by a culture of instant expectation, a culture shaped by markets that move in seconds, by crypto assets that doubled overnight, by social media success stories carefully edited to remove the years of patience that preceded the victory. And so, when a new silver investor buys their first few ounces, they arrive with a completely unrealistic timeline. They expect silver to perform like a technology stock during a bull run. They expect visible, measurable, exciting returns within months of their first purchase. And when those returns do not arrive on schedule, the doubt begins to grow. This is what experienced investors call weak hands. It is not an insult. It is a clinical observation about investor behavior under pressure. Weak hands are not bad people. They are simply unprepared people. They entered a long-term game with a short-term mindset. And the moment the market applied pressure, the moment silver stopped climbing and started consolidating, their hands could not hold. The survey from that East Coast coin shop confirmed this pattern with remarkable clarity. 84% of sellers had been stacking for 2 years or less. They came in during a period of rising excitement. They bought when the energy was high. And the moment the market entered its natural cooling phase, they interpreted that cooling as failure. They did not recognize what experienced stackers understand instinctively. Consolidation is not collapse. Patience is not weakness. A quiet market is not a dead market. Consider the 2%. Only 2% of sellers in that survey had been holding silver for more than 5 years. 2%. These long-term holders are not selling because they understand something the 84% do not. They have watched silver move through multiple cycles. They have seen it rise dramatically, pull back sharply, stabilize quietly, and then rise again. They have lived through the fear that new investors are feeling right now, and they survived it by doing nothing, by simply holding, by trusting the process that time, and only time, can validate. There is a principle in serious wealth building that rarely gets discussed on social media because it does not make for exciting content. It is called cost averaging. Cost averaging means you do not put all your money into any asset at one single moment in time. You buy consistently, in smaller amounts, across longer periods. When the price is high, you buy a little. When the price pulls back, you buy a little more. Over time, your average entry price stabilizes, and your position strengthens. This strategy removes emotion from the equation. It removes the panic of watching prices fall. It removes the regret of buying at a peak. It removes the dangerous temptation to sell everything the moment the market enters a difficult phase. But cost averaging requires something that the modern investment culture actively discourages. It requires patience. Not weeks of patience, not months of patience, years of it. And here is where the story takes a turn that most financial commentators refuse to discuss openly. The people selling silver right now are not just making a personal financial mistake. They are unknowingly participating in a transfer of real, physical, tangible wealth from those who do not yet understand what they are holding to those who have understood it for a very long time. And the people receiving that silver across the counter are not worried at all. In fact, they are quietly smiling. There is an old grocery store scene from a 1991 movie that most people remember fondly. A young boy, alone in a big house, walks into a neighborhood supermarket. He picks up basic everyday items: bread, milk, juice, simple household necessities. He pays for everything with a single $20 bill and walks out with change in his pocket. That scene is 30 years old now. But here is what makes it relevant today. Go to that same grocery store, pick up those same items, and try to pay with that same $20 bill. It will not be enough, not even close. That $20 bill sitting underneath a mattress for 30 years did not grow. It did not protect anything. It simply diminished, quietly, slowly, year by year, purchase by purchase. The purchasing power that bill once represented evaporated. But an ounce of silver purchased in that same era tells a completely different story. Silver in the early 1990s traded around $5 per ounce. A modest amount of silver purchased back then would today represent significantly more purchasing power than any paper currency stored in the same period. This is not a complicated concept. This is simply what silver does. It does not create wealth dramatically. It does not double overnight. It does not trend on social media with exciting price alerts every morning. It simply preserves. It holds the value of the work a person already did, the hours already spent, the sacrifices already made. It stores that value quietly, patiently, and reliably across time. And that is precisely what paper currency was never designed to do. Now consider where silver stands today. By serious analytical measures, silver remains significantly undervalued relative to its historical relationship with gold, relative to its expanding industrial demand, and relative to the accelerating global need for raw materials that power modern technology infrastructure. Artificial intelligence data centers consume enormous quantities of silver and copper. Every server, every cooling system, every high-efficiency electrical connection running through those facilities requires physical materials that cannot be printed, cannot be digitally manufactured, and cannot be replaced with a government policy decision. The demand is real, the supply is finite, and the price has not yet reflected either of those realities fully. This is not speculation. These are documented industrial facts that major financial institutions are beginning to acknowledge publicly. Fox Business recently noted that the current commodity cycle, particularly for copper and silver, may only be in its earliest stages, the first innings of a very long game. And yet, hundreds of people this week walked into a coin shop and sold. They sold because a YouTube video made them doubt. They sold because the price did not move fast enough. They sold because 2 years felt like a long time to wait for a result that experienced investors know requires 10. They handed physical, tangible, irreplaceable wealth across a counter, in exchange for paper currency that loses value every single year by design. The coin shop owner who conducted that small survey did not share these numbers to embarrass anyone. He shared them because the pattern concerned him, because he has seen it before, because he knows what comes after a period of widespread selling by unprepared investors. The market recovers. It always has. And when it does, the people who held through the difficulty will look back at this moment not with regret, but with quiet satisfaction. The wealth did not disappear. It simply changed hands. So the real question, the one that every person watching this needs to answer honestly for themselves, is not whether silver will recover. The question is far simpler than that. When it does, whose hands will it be in?